Welcome back to another episode of George in the Jungle, presented as always by Remington Tavern. Remington Tavern can be found at 8892 Glendale Milford Road, 45140, where they have their daily happy hour from 3 to 7 p.m., $5 bourbon whiskey Wednesdays, bottle cap bonanza Thursdays from 7 to 9 p.m. You can find them on Instagram at RemyTav Cincy. That's REMITAV Cincy with a Y, or follow them on Facebook. Don't forget they have Cincy Light on tap. Cincy Light, of course, the sponsor of our studios here, where we are coming at you live now, post-game. But George, what a hell of a game. What a hell of a finish. That game had everything.
Yeah, it really did. It had a great first half by the Bearcats, at least offensively. Actually, defensively, too. They played pretty well. I thought down the stretch when things started getting hairy, you saw some stuff defensively. First of all, out of the whole Bearcat team, but there was a stretch with about 5 minutes left and a minute left where Josh Reed and Dylan Mitchell made so many plays on the defensive end. And if I remember correct, during that stretch, Baylor was making some tough shots. And Jizzle got taken to the hole once. Good defense, but they got it down low and scored. The same thing happened to Josh Reed, but they were contested shots. And UC did make sure that everything was contested down that final stretch, which was huge for them because that's some stuff that's been lacking in some of these losses, especially the close losses or the losses where they had a lead and coughed it up in the last 8 minutes. I just thought it was really great the way they played down the stretch. And you're up 13 at the half. You don't want to have to sweat this thing out, but Baylor is a damn good team. And you see, there were a couple times I'm like, Wes, what are you doing with this lineup against what they have out there? But then he mixed and matched, and I thought he did a hell of a job mixing and matching down the stretch and having the guys in there to defend when it was on the line. And they did a hell of a job. I mean, it was a great game. It was a fun game to watch, and they had to win. It was a must-win, and they got it.
Yeah, you had that 13-point lead in the first half after you hold Baylor scoreless. I believe it was at least 8 minutes, if not 10 minutes of game time. And you had an 18-2 run, which is absolutely insane for this team.
Right, and you don't want to have that and then have to win by 2 at the end.
Man,
I mean that's you know, if you want to pick on some things, that's certainly something you can pick on right there. But at the same time, Baylor came out after halftime and was on fire. I mean, it didn't matter if it was a defended shot, not a defended shot. They were making everything there for a little bit and got back in the game. And credit to them, they're a good team. And that's why this is a good win for the Bearcats. They hung on and got done what they needed to get done. And didn't it feel like this is going to be just another one of those games where they let it slip away and you're disappointed? It felt that way to me in the second half.
I feel like that's an Achilles heel of this team is they have no idea what to do with the lead once they have it, especially a good lead. They legitimately have no idea what to do with it when they get a double-digit lead. They're like, oh, well, I guess we can stop playing now. The game's over. Yeah,
and there were a couple of possessions that were just wasted and wasted on bad shots, not necessarily turnovers, just wasted on bad shots. Where I just felt like they weren't being as patient, and yes, Seamos's threes were big, but then he missed his last 2, and I felt like the first one. I had no problem with the first one he missed because that was kind of a heat check. The second one, and both times he caught, dribbled. I think once he dribbled left, once he dribbled right, and then fired and missed those. I thought the second one I could have done without. However, you got to let your shooter shoot, and he was playing pretty well at the time. So I'm not going to nitpick him on that, but I thought the second one I could have done without. But, you get the win, and now you set up what's coming up this weekend, and at least they have an opportunity. And as Is this the be-all, end-all? Is it must win and not get in? Not necessarily. Play them very, very well on the road, and you're making a statement down the stretch now. What is it, 5 out of the last 7 they've won now?
Yes.
So that's pretty strong. That's a nice little stretch in the Big 12 when quite honestly, at the end of January, you were almost giving up for dead.
I had certainly given them up. So I was definitely happy to see them come back to life, as it were. I saw Tony Pike had the Bob Huggins coming out of a coffin
Yes.
as he was previewing his show on Twitter. I was so nervous when Jizzle picks up that 4th foul. Just they had fouls to give. He's the one fouling them. Now you got 4 fouls and you're in a 1 possession game. I'm like, this dude's going to foul out and have to go into overtime.
Correct.
Because he's just giving up these fouls. I
Right.
was very nervous about that. So that was just a thought I had at the end of the game.
Well, and there was one of those that he fouled so early. It's like, God dang, you didn't really, because they just inbound. It was after the first foul he committed when they got across half court. And then they throw it in and he fouled almost immediately. I mean, I think like a second went off the clock or 2 seconds. And it's like, give it a little more time. I know you don't want him launching a 3 and getting fouled on that or any of that business. But, yeah, you're right. That's the guy that shouldn't have been fouling there because I was thinking about overtime from 5 minutes on. And when Omer, number 15 on their team, had 4, it's like the minute he came back in, you got to pound it at that dude with somebody. And they did. And honest to God, Aaron, I thought – so Aziz is the dude was driving in the lane, number 15, and clears out with his arm and knocks Aziz out of the lane, and they don't call the 5th foul. I don't like to bitch about refs, but that one. And then down the other end, he's moving on. He's did something on the other end, and it's like they are not going to foul this guy out. The refs are just not going to foul him out. It was crazy. There were some. Every game in the Big 12, you see these head-scratching calls, and there were some tonight, but at least the Bearcats were able to outlast that and overcome some of their own mistakes and lock down on defense at the end of that game. Again, I said that, they scored over Jizzle, scored over Josh, but those were contested shots.
I know you brought up Josh Reed's defense. First half, Josh Reed – I don't know what's going on with this dude, but he had 9 points in the first half, tied for the lead for the Bearcats with Jizzle at 9. Just how impressive has he been over the course of the last month? It seems now he's just been playing lights out. He has confidence, not just shooting the 3, which is what he had been known for, but also now putting the ball on the floor and driving to the hole. It's a whole different Josh Reed, even if it's not always the prettiest. He had the Dirk Nowitzki fadeaway today with the leg kick, the high knee leg kick. I don't even recognize this player anymore at this point, and that's a good thing.
Well, I feel like it's always kind of been there, and you've seen things, and it's like, is he I always felt like maybe his issue was quickness and the quickness of everything. And it seems like somehow he's gotten into that flow, and now he's not just a catch and shoot guy on offense. He'll back guys down, and I love him for it. And he's pretty nifty in the lane with some of his moves and his shots, and he backs guys down, and he can use a hook, he can use a turnaround, he can use all different facets. He uses the glass, and he's always kind of had that, but I just felt like he was always a step slow at this level on those moves, and he doesn't have that anymore. He doesn't hesitate. He's found the confidence and a comfortability factor that has allowed him to do this, and he is I don't know about you, but if it's between him or another veteran on the team to be in the game at crunch time. And Wes has shown this. Josh Reed is in the game when it matters.
Well, and to your point, defensively, I don't know that outside of Dylan Mitchell, there's anybody on the team right now that can guard as many players as he can,
Yeah,
and at the level that he's shown that he can do so. So I mean, you even had Simas did play today. He was available and did play. He
yeah.
played 17 minutes today, but he did not get the start. I don't know if that's them just trying to work him back after having been injured. If it's something that they're being just gingerly working him back in about, or if Josh has just officially sealed his place as you have to start him because he is such a spark plug, such a fan favorite, such a dude who can do things both ways at this point.
He's earned it. He's absolutely earned it. He has come from a spot on the bench to where he got minutes out of necessity, and he showed what he can do. And you got to root hard for a guy like that because he's always been good at all the basic dirty work stuff. He really has. And it's just like this other stuff, and his game has expanded, and he's always been a solid fundamental player who doesn't normally make the bad pass. It's like when the ball gets to Josh Reed, he knows where it needs to go next ahead of time. And in contrast to that, I feel like sometimes Aziz has struggled in that, but there was a point in the first half tonight where Aziz got a ball in the lane and he pitched it as quickly as he could. He may have pitched it to Josh in the corner for a three. He pitched it out to an open man immediately. And it's like, yes, he was thinking, oh my God, if the ball comes into me, here's a guy wide open. You know, he's thinking ahead. And that's what you got to do. And I think Josh Reed does that.
He's been just very selective with his shots as well. 4 or 5 tonight from the field, 1 of 1 on his only 3. He hit 2 of his 3 free throws, 4 rebounds, 2 assists, as you were just talking about him making the extra pass. Just he's filling up everything. He did have the highest plus minus on the team at plus 11. I know that stat, take it for what you will, but I don't think it's an accident that in a win tonight, he was the highest plus player for the Bearcats.
Yeah, and I just thought, again, he and Mitchell down the stretch defensively did some things that made a difference in that game. And there were a couple times Mitchell kept rebounds alive on the defensive end that Baylor very well could have gotten their hands on for another possession, and he kept the ball alive. And both of them were very active on that end of the floor. And that's what you got to have. And it's, it's good to see. Is everything fixed? No, but they're on the right path and they have a great opportunity now. And do I think that's going to happen? Probably not. But don't you think if they play Houston tough on the road and have a good showing, hang in there, cause some havoc, that maybe they'll turn some heads if they don't falter on the game next Wednesday or the final game, down the stretch. I think they're going to be in good shape.
You can shock the world and win at Houston. I think your entire season takes a complete U-turn on where it had been at the end of January. So
totally.
Neil here in the chat says the opponent 3-point percentage shooting off of an offensive rebound is now up to 99% against Cincinnati.
He's right. It seems like it. I mean, every time. And there were a couple when Baylor was making their comeback in the second half, and they did it early and got it down quickly. They had some of those. They had some seconds, and sometimes the ball just bounced weird. There were 2 long rebounds off threes that UC couldn't get to. Day kind of got a finger on one, and he wasn't quite tall enough. Go figure. There were 2 in a row and a couple possessions where they couldn't track him down and got burned. That's going to happen, but it's just unfortunate. But it happened when it did, when Baylor was making their comeback. And Baylor's a good squad. I mean, that's a team that won it all not all that long ago, and they get talent. I mean, they've got they've got a lottery pick on their squad right now. And that kid is good. And when he heated up from three there in the second half and he was doing everything for a short stretch there. I'm like, oh my God, this will not end well, because that kid took off for a small stretch, and give UC credit. They squelched it. And they squelched it with Mitchell and Reed, by the way.
BJ Edgecombe is very, very good. He'll definitely be a lottery pick. I'm curious to see where Norchad Omier ends up when all's said and done.
That guy should have fouled out, by the way. But, I said that earlier.
You did say that earlier.
I mean, I couldn't believe it. I couldn't believe it. He comes back in with 4 fouls. I'm like, you got to go at him. And he didn't even give UC a chance to go at him. He takes his arm and shoves Aziz across the lane and missed the shot, thank God. But they didn't call anything. And it's like, I don't know what these guys are watching sometimes. I really don't. But it's hard to officiate in real time. It really is.
Sure. In the chat here, does it give Rayvon hope that he can create the same path as Josh to more minutes? Josh's minutes was limited last year too as a sophomore.
I totally think so, and that's a great observation, because quite honestly, tonight when things were going a little sideways, I thought Ray maybe should get some time. There are some guys that they're bought into that probably don't give you the quality minutes you should be getting at this point in the season. And I don't have a problem with throwing Ray in there and giving him a shot. And I wish I would have seen him in tonight's game. I really do. Because based on what I've seen when he gets in the games, he's kind of earned that. So, yeah, I think Josh Reed's got to give a lot of kids hope that you go to a program. And this is a lot of what I like about this team, even though a week ago I was cursing it about this team, is that a lot of guys come back and you see them grow and develop. And I'm worried about the current college game that we're not going to get to see a lot of Josh Reeds in the future that bide their time and sit behind guys and show up and put in the work and then eventually get rewarded, because there's just so much movement. And so, you're just going to recruit over somebody every year in the portal. And it's good to see someone like that emerge who was pretty much buried on the bench at the beginning of this year.
Yeah, my only thought is, I don't know who you would have taken the minutes from tonight to get Rayvon minutes.
I can think of a couple, but
you had Tyler Betsy with 8 minutes. I thought his minutes were actually pretty good tonight.
Yes, he was good. He's done a lot. Problem with him.
He's done a lot more than just hanging out around the 3-point line over the course of the last 2 or 3 games now, which has been my biggest gripe with him over the course of the season.
And I will say, Aaron, the last game, I was at it, and I can't even remember now because I'm
TCU.
So fixated on tonight. TCU, he comes in, right, and he misses a couple of threes, which is pretty much what he's done to this point for the most part. Then he started taking the ball to the hole and drawing fouls and doing things I didn't know he was capable of. So I'm all in on that dude. And yes, you are correct. He's showing some things, and I thought he played well tonight when he was in.
Outside of that, I mean, Dan only had 15 minutes tonight. CMOS only had 17 minutes tonight. So I guess you're a little hard pressed to find minutes for Rayvon. I don't think you're going to take him away from your starting 5 of Day-Day, Jizzle, Josh, and Dylan and Aziz.
No, but there were a couple stretches tonight when the lineup was kind of wonky, and I early in the second half, I'm sitting there, I'm like, my God, this lineup is not going to get it done, and it didn't. And I was a little irritated with our head coach.
Do you hear that? It's the jazz band because the reed is wet. That's pretty funny, Sean. That's pretty funny.
That's funny. Well, the Reed did a hell of a job tonight, and very pleased that they were able to survive and give themselves another chance.
No dunks in this one, George. This might be the first game of the season where Cincinnati did not have a dunk. They did try and get Dylan a lob. Dylan also had a putback that he was not able to put back. I'm pretty sure he was fouled on that putback as well. However,
are you kidding? He goes flying and he's turning around, and they didn't call anything. I bet it was 15 that did it too.
But again, this might be the first game this season that Cincinnati did not have a dunk. Just an interesting observation.
Yeah, that is crazy. And I will say this. Hopefully Day learned from that and doesn't try any more dunks. Right? You don't need dunks to win. Now, it's nice, it's fun, it's entertaining, but that was a very entertaining game with what we saw. But yeah, was that the last game when Day missed the dunk
on the TCU?
Yeah. Oh my God. I get it, but God dang, I almost lost my mind because that could have hurt.
Sounds about right.
Man.
So you've only got 3 games left. You've got Houston coming up here on Saturday, and that game has as big an implication for a season that I can't remember a game that is as big as this game against Houston. I can't say enough about how much a win against a team that you have not been able to find a win against in years.
Yeah. Yeah, it's funny because, Calvin Sampson first got there. It was the opposite. It was the other way around. He couldn't figure out a way to beat UC and Mick and all that. And then he kind of created a Mick monster down there with the same kind of philosophy and the defense and the athletic people that and he's taken it up a notch, to be honest. I mean, they've been a machine over the past 5 years, and it's not going to be an easy task. In fact, I don't know. I hate to say it could be ugly because I don't want to say that because these guys are playing well now. So maybe they found a little something that'll keep them in the game, and they got a chance down the stretch. That's what you got to hope.
Well, we'll see how that goes. Tip-off is at 4:30 on Saturday. That'll be on CBS, so we're prime time. Then you've got Kansas State the following Wednesday, and you wrap up the season at Oklahoma State on Saturday. So we'll see. Still plenty of basketball left to make some noise. But for those of you who are here, I did hear from Chad. He's going to be here around 10:40, at which point we will do the aftermath as we normally do. But this is the point in time in the show where George and I
off the show again.
You can do what you want to do, George. You are
go cook a steak or something. I'm starving.
You are beholden to your own whims.
Yeah, right. What did I just see here? Oh, I gotta take Houston for the. Yeah, I do. I did bet on. I bet Baylor on the money line tonight. Not much.
You told me you did.
I'm tired of losing now. Like, but I love winning. It's funny. It's a weird dynamic. So I will try to make it work. But I will definitely be betting on the Cougars come Saturday and try to buy a win.
But this is the point in time where we switch gears a little bit. Cincinnati baseball, the Bearcats baseball team has been making a little bit of noise themselves. They go to Duke and they take 2 of 3 at Duke, losing only by 1 run in the game that they lost. And then they go out to Vegas for a 4-game series and split it 2-2. And the 2 games they lose are also by 1 run.
Oh, that was a crusher last night, too. And the other loss was a crusher. Then they won one they probably shouldn't have, so it all evens out. But here, I will tell you, I'm watching last night, right? This stuff was on YouTube,
Yeah.
all 4 games out at UNLV. So I watched a big chunk of 3 of them. And I was watching last night. Oh my God, what a heartbreaker. But what tickled me is the game's over, UNLV wins, and you hear the UNLV announcer say, "A good weekend for the running Rebs. They take 2 out of 4 from the 23rd ranked team in the country. This is good." And it's like, how about that? Someone
Yeah.
beating UC takes a bow and says, "This was an accomplishment." And that's how quickly this thing has come together, because it's been remarkable. And to go down to Duke and do what they did, yeah, I'm excited about this. They've got a guy who, as a head coach, seems to make a difference, and a big difference.
Well, how much fun is Bishop Ball? The actual brand of Bishop Ball, where
Yes.
it's all of this small ball. You're bunting for singles. You're stealing bases. You're kind of just getting back to fundamental baseball, which it seems everybody has gone the opposite direction because everyone's doing analytical baseball, and
Yeah.
instead Bishop's just going back to literally the basics and just playing baseball.
Which a bunch of old guys like me appreciate the heck out of. And last night, okay, last night you got a guy on first, nobody out. He walked. It was either the top of the 7th or the 8th. I think it was the 8th, tie ball game. They go for the steal. He got caught, but I don't, it's okay because it was a close play. They called him out, but you're trying to make something happen. And you're doing it in ways that teams at the major league level don't do anymore.
Right.
It's yeah, and it's whatever it takes to win. It doesn't have to be pretty. You don't have to hit 2 grand slams. You have to score more runs, and you have to keep the other guys off the board when it's close. And I think he's done a great job so far, and it's way too early in the season to say this. And when I say so far, since he's been here with that pitching staff, it seems like he knows pitching inside out, and I think it's making a difference. And so that's been fun to watch. I'm really I'm anxious to go see him play.
Well, their next game will be on Thursday, as they will be at San Diego. And that game starts at 9:00. And they'll be there for the weekend before.
I hope that's on. Is that on ESPN Plus, or say it'll be on something? I'll be able to see that somewhere because I'll watch.
I don't know the answer to that, but
I'll find it.
Yeah,
most of the games are on somewhere, even if it's like that Las Vegas, that UNLV thing, where it's just one camera behind home plate. You can't see the corners of the outfield, and it never moves. It's just one solid stationary. But I'll take that. I will take
4-game series there. They'll wrap that up on Sunday, and before getting back home. But they're not the only team playing baseball right now, as your Cincinnati Reds. They have started up spring ball, and of course, Ellie De La Cruz starts off the spring ball with a home run from one side of the plate and following it up with a home run from the other side of the plate.
What do you think Terry Francona thought when he saw that?
I think that Ellie De La Cruz is a major reason that Terry Francona is even here.
Probably. And he probably sat back and watched that and said, "Holy crap, this guy really is that good." And he is. Yeah. He's sensational. And then you got Austin Hayes doing what he did yesterday.
6 RBIs.
Yeah. 2 homers, a double, 6 RBI. And somebody texted me about that. Like, oh, what did it? I'm like, that might be his best game in a Reds uniform, no matter how long he plays.
Sure.
That's an incredible game. But I'm excited that if he's healthy and feeling good again, $5 million on a flyer for him was a great move. Now, he may be a bust, but in baseball dollars, That's not that big of a risk. So I'm really glad they did it and they have him. I just and the starting pitching so far, Hunter Green gave up a couple runs and I'm not all that worried about him. I don't know about you. I'm not.
No.
I think he showed us enough last year that when he's feeling good and he's healthy, he's going to be good. Lodolo throws tomorrow. Martinez pitched well. Ashcraft pitched well. Singer pitched well. Only 2 innings apiece. It's still so early, but that's a little reassuring, even though it's really early and nothing's happened yet. I kind of like where they are. I like the health of the team. McLean's back. They've got a lot of stuff to work with. And I'll tell you this. I've got, I know all these guys that are down there covering the team and stuff, and they're telling me, you wished you were here this training camp and covering some stuff here this year because it is so much fun and loose. And Francona is so cool, and these guys feel that, and they're loose, and they're having fun, I guess is what you would say. And that's good to hear because I've gone down there before in Phoenix and dealt with these Reds guys, and it's like you would walk in that locker room, and I'm not going to say it was a mausoleum, but it's like, good God, they sure as hell didn't want to deal with any media types. But that's not the vibe this year. They're all like open and in, and that would be cool.
Real quick, Drew. This is George in the Jungle. Chad will be back at 10:40. At which point we'll start the aftermath. But this is where we talk about.
Drew, we'll get you there. Don't worry. We talked about the Bearcats earlier, and I'm fired up about them, and I hope the hell they make the tournament, because wherever they go, I'm going.
But getting back to the Reds, I'm not super concerned about the starters. We know pitchers do they work some different things in. They work some different things in and try and change up some mechanics and stuff in spring training just to see what they have and what you can maybe carry on to the regular season. What better time to do it than in live game like spring training? But to your point about Brady Singer, 3 strikeouts in his first inning as a Red. Just
no better way to start, is there?
Knocked them all down. So, and you also
that's kind of an underrated move too, actually bringing him in because
for sure
you see what happened last year, and you thought at the beginning of the year, how are they going to play all these guys? By the time they got to Cincinnati, they're pulling people off the waiver wire, and you can never have too much pitching. You can never have too many major league ready players in your system. And I think for a long time, the Reds have had, and they've got some good backup now at the AAA and AA level. They finally replenished their minor league system where they have guys they can bring up that are not such a negative above replacement. They have guys that can be plus or more or even, but it's not like it was in the past. And they've got not just players, but prospects that are, there's going to be some damn good baseball players that are young that don't make this team out of training camp. And I'm thinking of guys, like Sal Stewart, people like that.
Well, and I was
highly thought of.
I was going to bring that up. Sal Stewart and Cam Collier both had extra base hits already in this young 2-game spring training season. So good on them.
Yeah, no, they've replenished the system a little bit. It appears, I never want to say you have enough pitching because those guys drop like flies anymore. I mean, you look at I'm seriously, it's crazy how pitchers get hurt now. But they at least seem to have a surplus now that they can draw on if things get tight. I mean, we haven't even seen, I don't think Andrew Abbott's thrown yet. Lodolo throws tomorrow. So, yes, I feel good about where they are, and I feel better that Francona is leading this charge.
In the chat, George Aaron, when would it be reasonable to expect the Reds to play above 500?
This season.
There's plenty of people who say that Terry Francona is worth 10 plus in your war.
I haven't said that. I said 5 to 7 was my 5 to 7. And that is a good point. That is a very good point about the innings. And you know what's interesting is also guys at the major league level, you know how it is with these pitchers and the starters. You go through a lineup twice and your leash is gone. You let a man on with a single and they pull you from the game. So nobody goes that deep, and they should. I think sometimes they should, but the nature of the current major league game, and maybe Tito will blow this out of the water, but the nature of the current major league game is once you get through the lineup twice, that third time you give up a walk and then maybe a hit, you're gone. You're gone. You are deemed out of gas.
I'm all for old school.
How it was in the old days.
I'm all for old school coaches, and Tito might be up there with the best of them. So it should be certainly an interesting season compared to what we've gone through the last several seasons. By the way, real quick for those of you on the audio only format, George was referencing the innings thing was a comment here in the chat. Only concern is outside of Singer, they have no other pitcher who's gone 150 innings in a season would worry me. So just for those of you just listening.
Yeah, that's my bad. I'm supposed to be the media savvy guy that should pick up on that.
Look, that's what I'm here for. I got you, George.
But you'll love me today. I see the Reds are at 310 on what's it called? FanDuel Sports Network.
Who knows?
Right? So I'm looking at this, and I didn't notice they're off today. They were off today. It was Wednesday. So I'm going through, and it's not on FanDuel, and I'm like, what the hell? I go to the MLB Network. Then I download the app on my television for FanDuel, and I'm trying to mess. And I'm like, what is going on here? And then I look, and then it hits me. I'm like, holy crap. Are they off today and that's tomorrow's game? Because I'm looking at the Reds webpage, and it's like, yeah, Lodolo starts Wednesday, not Tuesday.
Their Twitter admin put out like a lineup, and instead of the players' names, it had essentially like, we won't be playing today, but we will be playing tomorrow. And instead of, so joke's on you, George.
Yeah, it's totally on me, but at least I got the Reds on tomorrow afternoon on FanDuel Sportsnet.
Couple of last quick.
Lodolo throw his 2 innings, and NW2 Top G, yes, I agree. It's going to be, he's got to watch that. They've all had injury issues, and my God, can Lodolo please get through 2/3 of a season without a calf strain or a blister? Or
I'll be happy if he makes it. I'll be happy if he makes it through spring training. Let's get baby steps, George. Baby steps.
Oh, he's got so much talent. It's just maddening.
Just makes you wonder if he should be a reliever instead of a starter, but that's a different discussion. Different discussion for a different day. Moving topic.
Discussions have probably been thought of, and you know,
moving topics along as we are under a little limited time crunch here. The Bengals made headlines today as you had upper brass talking about wanting to make Jamar Chase the richest non-quarterback in the NFL. Also discussing wanting to, if it's up to them, which it is, wanting to bring T. Higgins back into the fold. But the way it was phrased was a little strange, I thought. In any case, other headlines were J.J. Watt and this deal he has with a soccer player over in La Liga or something. He's apparently, he might be a Bengal. He's been tweeting little things out here where he says he was on the Dan Patrick show today saying that this is a pinky promise that he intends to keep. But he has also been tweeting out homes that he's been looking at in the Cincinnati area. I don't know if you knew that or not, George. But
didn't know that.
he's serious about it, at least from what we're hearing. And also some rumors about Gronkowski might be coming out of retirement this season next year. And if he does, there is, of course, the conversation that Joe Burrow tried to have with Rob Gronkowski via text, where he said, "Hey, I'd like you to come play for me." And Gronkowski thought it was a prank because players are known to get pranked by numbers that they don't know. He didn't have Joe Burrow's number, didn't think it was a real thing. And so there may or may not be a tie there. We'll see. But a lot of things flying around in a lot of different directions with the Bengals.
It's crazy that all that's going on involving the Bengals with JJ
in one day.
I know. And I would say neither one of those have a real good possibility of happening. Sure. I really don't. First of all, I don't think Watt's going to come back, and I think that goalkeeper is going to give up a goal, and he's supposed to throw all these shutouts together or whatever. I think that's what it is, right? Did I get that right?
You did.
Okay. And then the Gronkowski Burrow story was hilarious. That Gronkowski did not respond because he'd been punked before on another player, and he thought he was punked again. And then he sees Burrow, and Burrow's like, "You never got back to me on that thing." And he's like, "It was really you." I thought. I think we're going to see Gesicki back as the tight end of the Bengals. I don't know.
Yeah, that was another one mentioned today.
But I watched the news conferences and I followed along, and I will say this. Duke Tobin is now, and he's going to kill me for this. Maybe I won't see him forever. He is now officially a member of Mike Brown's family. The way he spoke today and the things he said. And they're smart things. They're smart answers. And he gives you something at the same time giving you nothing, like Mike Brown.
Nothing.
And it's unbelievable. It's like he gives you something, but then when you take the whole thing, it's like, God, he still is hiding his cards. And I say that in respect because Mike Brown is really good at that. He is a champion freaking negotiator. He's smart, no matter what people think. He's brilliant, and he's very funny too. If you've ever sat with Mike Brown for 10 minutes, you will hear some funny stuff that is the driest. Oh, God, he's cut me more than once. And Duke's like him now. And I'm watching this. I'm like, holy God, he's officially a member of the Brown family. But everything he said made sense, what they're looking at, what they want to do. God bless him if he can figure this cap out. And he even said, we're lucky we have plenty of room. We can do this. Okay, then let's do it.
In the last week,
you're going to build an entire team this way.
In the last week, you also cut ties with Sheldon Rankins, which he apparently had meningitis, which obviously serious condition. And
they had to do that.
Yeah. Bad. It was just bad for both parties at this point, truthfully.
Yeah, and that's a shame because I like the pickup, but I don't know. I don't teach the techniques, and I don't know what fits, what doesn't, and it just didn't work. They tried. They took a good shot, but they have that money freed up. Every mock draft in the world has them taking a defensive tackle, basically, in the first round at 17, which does make sense. Are they going to be able to bring back B.J. Hill? I don't know. I hope so. I think he's been very productive for them in that. Now you're looking at, and then is Trey definitely going to be back, and are you going to be able to work a deal with him? And if you don't, then what? Because let's face it, they had nobody jump up and take the reins when Sam Hubbard was hurt this past year and playing hurt and was still sometimes their best option on one leg. And that worries me. I'm just worried they're going to be in the same spot they were last year where they can score 35, but they can give up 38.
Well, maybe aren't able to bring back Trey Hendrickson, but do bring in J.J. Watt. Who knows? In any case, we'll see how it all.
Nobody has ever said this in the history of the world, but on this day, I will take Trey Hendrickson over J.J. Watt.
Well, only one player
on a broadcast desk doing Subway commercials for 2 years.
Only one of those two players was in conversation for Defensive Player of the Year last year. Just saying.
The guy who had 35 sacks the last 2 years.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The last topic we're going to broach here, just real quick before we sign off. FC Cincinnati makes a move and brings in their newest shiny toy. Does the guy really just have one name? Is it just Evander like Madonna?
No, he hasn't. Well, that's what he goes by. Yeah, that's what we'll know him as.
Okay. So it's
got a
GB?
full name, but Evander's a lot easier, and I'm cool with it if he plays like that.
Is it like GB back in the early FC Cincinnati days where they had the one guy?
Remember that?
Yeah.
They had Brennan.
Yeah.
Who was a good player, by the way. No, they. Let me tell you something. From what I've seen early on, think about this. You give up one of your most dynamic players.
Yeah, Lucho.
Lucho's gone. And you bring this guy in, and he's every bit as good, if not better.
Younger.
You have that Dinke guy who scored the goal against the Red Bulls the other night, who is a stud. They're going to be pretty good. I did not realize how good they had knocked it out of the park this offseason, but based on early returns, they've got a chance. They've got some players.
Well, at the end of last season, we were both saying they needed to shake some things up because it felt so stale.
Yeah, it got stale. I don't know what happened. And early in the season, if you remember, halfway through that season, they were gangbusters. And then it just something weird happened. But, give that front office, give that coaching staff credit. They were willing to move on and make some changes and go and give the ownership credit. They freaking paid for these guys to come in. And I'm really, really, really excited about what they've done in the offseason because they've hit it out of the park.
As I understand it, with the Vander's contract, they did some different things too to try and make it work, to keep it cap friendly and all of that. So hat tip to FC Cincinnati's front office to continue to do what needs to be done to put a winning product on the field, on the pitch, as it were.
Yeah, they throw money out there, and kudos to the front to the ownership group for supporting it, and Chris Albright's just done. To me, the whole thing changed when he came in. He and Pat Noonan, they and the ownership always had the will and want to, but they just needed guys that knew MLS, and they've got them.
All right, well, that's going to wrap up our conversation here. Again, thank you to those who joined us. But Chad and I don't know if George's going to be joining us or if he's going to go eat himself a steak. We're going to be doing
steak.
We're going to be doing the.
I might give some comments.
We're going to be doing the aftermath here in a couple of minutes. But we want to thank our sponsors. Thank you to Cincy Light for sponsoring the studios that we come to you from every time we do a show. And thank you to Remington Tavern for sponsoring this little show. Again, they can be found at 8892 Glendale Milford Road, 45140, where they have their daily happy hour from 3 to 7 p.m., $5 bourbon whiskey Wednesdays, bottle cap bonanza Thursdays from 7 to 9 p.m. Check them out on Instagram at RemyTavCincy or follow them on Facebook. But for George Vogel, I'm Aaron Smith. We'll be back next Tuesday, 9 o'clock p.m. to discuss all of your Cincinnati sports.
And Drew's final comment is right. Thank you, Aaron.